This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring former FBI Special Agent and Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, Robin Dreeke.
Well, we haven't talked about her in a little while. Kouri Richins, this is the mother who wrote the children's book about the father of her child who died. She's accused of murdering, called Are You Still With Me? And wanted to get that book out for other children to help them through coping with the loss of a parent. You know, good idea. Optics are lovely on it until you're charged with the actual murder of the person you're writing the book about. Here to discuss that and some of the new elements of this case, Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent. So we know the fentanyl, that was what was found in his system, in Eric Richins' system, when he had passed away. It was then traced back, and this has all come out in court, and evidence and allegations of she got it from a friend, and it's a pretty clear chain of custody. We're also now learning that within the autopsy was a prescription drug, an antipsychotic drug called quetiapine, which Kouri had a prescription for herself. Interesting to see that it was in her husband's system. Is this going to be something that is used as a pro or a con, I guess, would be the question going forward to the trial? Because I could see it being both ways. One arguing, look, it's in a system. He was taking Kouri's drugs. You know, what else was he taking? Or is it, look, he has Kouri's drugs in his system. How did that get there? It all kind of about tone and inflection and how that one's delivered.
Another behavior arc, more
Completely.
Data points.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately I have negative confirmation bias on Kouri Richins.
Sure.
And so when I read this, oh boy, I got to stop chuckling over to this tragic story because it is tragic. But she is just low brain power. I mean, we've said it before about her. Mm-hmm. You know, the fact that she tried poisoning her husband. Well, she's allegedly poisoning her husband in such an obvious way. Just shows really low brain power. Like she never watched any shows like this. And the fact that we are now seeing one of her prescription drugs in his system, my negative confirmation bias on Kouri Richins says, oh yeah, she put it there. She's doing trial runs. I think my initial impulse was, oh, she's trying to kill him by toxic cocktails. Mm-hmm. You know, like mixing drugs that shouldn't be mixed. I mean, that was my initial impression was there. So my initial impression was this will help the prosecution.
I'm really, you know, it certainly plays into the poisoning behavior arc because we've heard allegations. He made allegations while he was alive to, I believe, his brother or his mother. It was someone that, you know, if I die through poisoning, look at her. And I'm paraphrasing as to what was actually said. But he believed that she had attempted to poison him earlier. Poisoning is such an interesting thing. I mean, you think about it. I mean, I think about it in terms of like Putin poisoning, you know, an adversary or something like that. Kind of a sneaky way. Everybody kind of knows how it happened. But not necessarily in people's homes and people's relationships, but it does happen, I guess, a little more frequently than I think most of us are aware of. Why? This seems like a very easy way to get caught and to get traced that you did something to someone else.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. I didn't research it because of this case, and there's been a interesting number of cases in the last year or two that are related to poisoning. Mm-hmm. In ancient times, ancient Rome, it was much more common for poisonings. It was like in vogue because using arsenic and using venom from snakes was a way to kill someone and poison their food because there was no such thing as autopsies that could determine how these people were killed. And so it was a very effective way to take out adversaries back in ancient times. And there's also an impersonalness about it. If you're the type of person that is squeamish by blood, you don't like the serial killers like to kill with knives because of the rush they have from being that close and personal. Someone poisons your
Kool-Aid,
your tool of the trade.
Yeah, you're clearly Canadian.
Yes, and but that being said, it's fallen out of vogue vogue's an interesting word. It's fallen out of favor just because of autopsies, because it's, one of the standard procedures, the first things they do in an autopsy is they cut open the stomach and see the last things you ingested. It's actually part of every single, and that's without even ordering an autopsy under suspicious conditions. It's part of what they do. And that's how, there's a recent accusation of poisoning in Australia with a woman that allegedly killed her husband by using poison mushrooms. Well, they cut open the stomach and it's found death bell mushrooms in his stomach, and part of normal things. And she wasn't originally arrested for that. So, and typically the people that are conducting the poisoning in a very low percent, we're talking single digits annually that use poison as a means of death or murder. And it's usually done by medical professionals because they have access to the drugs. They know the drugs. They know it can be detected in autopsies and things like that, in blood streams, and how fast they dissipate, all the technical stuff behind it. So usually it's done by medical professionals. Sometimes you'll see dentists involved in it. And even on the lower end of it, you'll see veterinarians involved in it because they do have access to the same drugs and they know toxicology and things like that. But having someone like Kouri involved or accused of poison is even more rare because, as we've seen, I don't think she's got a high IQ. Yeah. And if you're going to use poison, you're going to need a higher IQ to try to even have a chance of getting away with it. So luckily, I don't think if it is her, she's not going to get away with it.
Is poisoning kind of a route that speaks more to a narcissistic type personality because of what is involved in it? You're not the bad guy unless you get caught, including the whole way through the poisoning, unless, like I said, you get caught, the person figures out that you're the one behind it. But it can be administered. You can then be kind of the savior figure there in the last moments. I'm with you. Oh my gosh, I don't know. This is horrible. What's happening to you? You're going to immediately get sympathy from everyone because the person that you care about has just suddenly died for some reason, and it's shocking and it's horrible. And you continue to get that sympathy until you get caught, or if you get caught. So, and then you never have to have the moments either of actually doing the execution, where one may see you doing it. You're not going after somebody with a knife and having that traumatic moment. You're not pulling a trigger. You're just dumping something in a drink, and your brain's not necessarily registering that as a traumatic moment, as it would a knife being pounded into somebody or somebody pulling a trigger or what have you. So it seems like a fairly safe way, a kid glove way of being a killer if you're not capable of being a killer in another way, but you're so narcissistic that this is the only path that you feel you need to go down.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know. I haven't seen any research on narcissism or lack of narcissism or psychopathy related to poisonings, but given the track record of people that have poisoned others in murder cases like this, they tend to view themselves as very clever. Yeah. Whether it's accurate or not is the other thing, but they tend to be clever, smart people. Because again, the ones that are typically doing it are the doctors, the PhDs, the MDs. And then we got Kouri.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Who Kouri would describe herself. I believe she has described herself in questioning as, I'm a good person. Yeah.
And if you look at, again, the history, this is so rare because it's a rare way for murder.
Yeah.
And when you look at poisonings, it's typically doctors that are using the chemicals that are found only in a pharmacy.
Yeah.
And then in the case in Australia, in cases like that, you have things that are found in the wild that they could make part of a meal. And she made a mushroom compote that went inside a beef Wellington, and tried to disguise that way. And then you have Kouri, if it's her, that bought fentanyl from a drug dealer and put it in his Moscow Mule drink that night.
Yeah, and her own prescription that she has a prescription for under her name.
Yeah. Just throw it all in there, see what happens.
It's not the best judgment. Will be interesting to see how this one plays
rare.
out.
It is exceptionally rare. And I think that probably is going to be part of the defense in some way, is that how ludicrous this accusation is, because it just doesn't happen, maybe.
Yeah. Well, she's writing that book. We'll have to,
another
see
book
what
writer.
comes out in there.
What the heck?
Want to listen ad-free? Want advance access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on true crime
Until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.